Welcome to Module 6 of Police and Gang Interdiction. When we look at this particular module, we're going to turn back to the academics, but the academics in the United States, looking at how police are responding to gangs in the United States. We would be remiss in our exploration of gangs if we didn't consider Los Angeles. Los Angeles has been the epicenter of gangs in North America, and Los Angeles police officers have had great difficulty in controlling the gang problem, and they have suffered great losses in their attempts. The LAPD, by the mid-1980s, had about 280 gangs and 26,000 members. That's the LAPD and the LA County Sheriffs working to combat this issue. Between 1984 and 1992, the number of gang homicides rose from about 200 to 800 homicides per year. Residents in certain areas of Los Angeles that were ripe with gangs barred their windows, they slept in bathtubs, and they chained their doors. In this module, we turn once again to the show, one of my favorite shows, The Wire, for a very graphic and upsetting scene where rival gang members come into an area that's being run for drug trafficking by another group of gangs. But what's critical in the video is not the impact of the gang members shooting at each other, but how the residents live through this daily violence. In Los Angeles, Chief Gates, at the time, created CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums. They were a very effective, in-your-face enforcement unit. One point, they made 25,000 arrests in 1 year. In one weekend, they had to use the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum to process the number of prisoners that they had arrested. Clearly, CRASH was successful in suppression techniques, and it was seen as the model throughout the United States for how to deal with gang enforcement. Unfortunately, 10 years later, through a whole host of reasons, the LAPD CRASH unit became the subject of a federal investigation. And in that, they found corruption, excessive force, civil rights violations, and it ended up with the Los Angeles Police Department entering into a consent decree with the federal government. Over $70 million was paid out in lawsuits related to the scandal. Why are we talking about this? Because we need to be careful as we move into this area of gang violence and we receive demands from the community to deal with the problem, that we as police can only be part of it and we can only work within the legal confines that are presented to us. The research in the United States clearly says that police response to the gang problem is suppression units, gang units, increase in the number of units, increase in the technical efficiencies of the units, training and experience, and public displays of these units so that there's a public awareness that the police department and the local government are doing something. An alternative perspective, though, is offered by many academics that are critical of this suppression only, or certainly the suppression focus look at how to deal with the gang problem. Zatz, 1987, found in her study that in Phoenix, there was no real gang problem at the exact same time that a gang unit was formed. She did argue, though, that by forming a gang unit, the police department was able to access federal funding in order to have additional officers on the streets. The police department claims of a gang problem in her mind and her research were clearly exaggerated. A further alternative perspective is given to us by McCorkle and Meath in 1998 when they examined court records, media reports, and official crime reports in Las Vegas, Nevada. They determined that gang members were a small percentage of those arrested for violent offenses and drug offenses. The police department was in need of a public image change, a catapult, and they used the gang violence situation as a way to access additional funds and to improve their image with the public and their ability to maintain crime control. Katz, McGuire, and Ronick in 2002 studied specialized gang units that were formed in over 300 US cities. They found no relationship between the size of the community gang problem or the crime problem and the creation of gang units. Gang units, however, they found were more prevalent in cities with large Hispanic populations. Police units found more often in cities that received external funding for such units. They're suggesting in their research that police agencies that could access external funding form gang units, sometimes in circumstances in which gang units were not required. Now, as police officers sitting here listening to this, working in very stressful environments with very lean budgets, it's difficult for us to accept these researchers. And there are critics of the research that was conducted. They had limited methodology. Most of the research failed to have any information included from the police departments. Further, there was minimal research done with input from the mayors, city councilors, special interest groups, or citizens. This research, for the most part, was based on court documents, media accounts, and other data mining research methods, which excluded a lot of the key stakeholders in the issue. They also failed to research what did the gang units actually do that had been formed. What this leaves us with is, once again, we have limited research on the community policing and the role of gang policing units, what they do, what they're effective at, and whether or not they should in fact be formed. Thank you very much.